So I'm going to map out how I think about immuno. I think the first split I'd make is innate versus adaptive. The wording I use is dumb versus smart. What's good about smart? It's just better. It's a higher tech system. So it's the low tech versus the high tech. So why would you ever want to use low tech? Because it's faster. So what's good about the adaptive? It's better, more specific, more powerful, more effective. What's bad about the adaptive? It takes more time to get it ready because it's so high tech. So you need your innate to hold you over to buy time for the adaptive. So basically these are the front line. These are the cavalry, like how they say send in the cavalry. So that's innate. With innate you have, what's it all about? I guess you have complement, but that's kind of on the side. Other than that, you have innate is basically about antigen presenting cells. There are 3 APCs, I forgot what they are. One is macrophage, one is dendritic cell, and one is don't remember. Anyways, I mainly think of there's 2 phagocytes, which I call eaters. Phagocyte means eating cells. These are cells that can actually eat germs. One of them is neutrophil. I'll just put an N, honestly. The other one is macrophage. They're also called PMNs, but I won't put that. So these are the nickname, first responder versus, what are macrophages? I'll just say the Hulk. Actually, macrophage literally means big eater. So I think of them as the Hulk because they're a big monster that eats everything. So I just put big eater. They're both first responders, but this one is first before this one, basically. Then this splits into M1 versus M2 macrophages. What do those mean? Inflammation versus scar. So basically, to break and destroy, and then to rebuild. Break versus rebuild. Inflammation versus healing. Inflammation, which is designed to kill germs, but also ends up damaging your own body, which is always followed by the scarring and healing that takes place afterwards to repair that damage. So this is the battle, and then this is the rebuilding after the battle. So this guy's an antigen presenter, but the professional, he's a professional because there's 3. Antigen presenting is a special thing. It's like not a lot of cells do it. It's kind of like a few specialized guys. But the guy who's most specialized in that is the dendritic cell, because it has dendrites. What are dendrites? Arms. What are arms? Things that you use to pick up pieces of a germ and present those pieces to the commander, helper T, the commander of the immune system. So going to that, our adaptive is split into 2, T and B. What's B cell? Antibody. That's what B cell is all about, makes antibody. What is T cell? Well, you can't say anything yet because there's 2 types that are kind of totally different. The cytotoxic T cell and the helper T cell. TC and TH. There's a big difference between them. TH is the commander of the entire immune system. He's above everybody in the cascade. So he's very, very intelligent. He doesn't do the grunt work. He gives commands to the others. Versus the killer T cell is very dumb. He's the same as an NK cell, basically. Also known as natural killer cell. They both have killer in the name. They're the only 2 cells with killer in the name. And they basically do the same thing. They don't just kill germs. They kill human cells. So if you're the patient, they kill your own cells. Why would you want to do that? Well, because sometimes the germ infects the human cells before the immune system can destroy the germ. So when that happens, you still need to get rid of the germ. So you kill your own human cell. It's basically like a zombie thing. Once a cell gets infected, that cell is no longer good. It's now like being controlled by the germ. So you need to get rid of that cell, or the germ will continue to spread by replicating via that cell. So you have two stages. When a germ gets inside your body, it's in your bloodstream. I'll put a blood drop, right? So the germ has two places it wants to go to. First, it wants to go into your bloodstream. Then second, it wants to go inside of your cells, right? Those are the two destinations it wants to enter. When it's outside of your body, that's where it starts. It wants to enter into your body. When it enters into your body, it's in your bloodstream. That's the first step. The germ just succeeded in one task. What's the second task? To go from the bloodstream into your cells. So first it's trying to get inside your bloodstream, aka inside your body, and second it wants to get inside your cell. Okay, these are two separate goals that the bug, or when I say bug I mean germ or microbe, that the germ has, and it has to do them in that order. First it has to get inside your bloodstream from the outside world, then it has to get into your cell from the bloodstream. When your immune system wants to stop this germ from achieving those two goals. So once the germ gets inside your bloodstream, your immune system fights it with humoral immunity. Once the germ gets inside your cell, though, now your immune system has to fight the germ with CMI, cell-mediated immunity. Humoral versus CMI. What does humoral mean? It means humor. What does humor mean? It means a fluid, right? Like the old Greek people used to talk about the four humors of the body, fluids that run through the body. Basically, humor means blood. It means fluid, but specifically it means blood. So humoral just means bloodstream. Humoral immunity is your attempt to kill the germ while it's in your bloodstream. Cell-mediated immunity is your immune system's attempt to kill the germ while it's in your cell. Okay, so it's outside the cell versus inside the cell. Before versus after, right? This is before it gets in your cell. It's ideal that you stop it before it ever gets in your cell. So it's ideal that your humoral immunity will take out the drug. But if your humoral fails, then your CMI is now the last resort, right? It's more ideal that you can just kill the germ instead of having to kill yourself. Not really your whole body, yourself, but you're killing your own cells when you do cell-mediated immunity, right? So in humoral, you kill the germ, versus in CMI, cell-mediated immunity, you kill your own human cell that has been infected by the germ, right? So it's like, this is like you're killing a zombie versus this is like you're having to kill your friend who got bitten by the zombie and now he got turned into a zombie. It's like that. Humoral versus CMI. The other thing is the weapons that are used. Humoral equals antibody. The whole point of humoral is that you're using antibodies to kill the germ. We said humoral equals blood, right? Well, antibodies, the whole way they work is that they float around in the blood. They're like these little trackers or little tracker things that float around in the blood, and then when they stick to a germ, that makes the germ the germ's location get exposed so that the other immune cells can come kill it easier. So it's basically like a death tag or a death mark, right? So antibodies float around in the blood. So antibody equals blood. Humoral just means it's using antibodies. And of course it's in the bloodstream. Versus cell-mediated, which means it's using killer T cells and it's in the cell. So the way this works then is that this duality, humoral versus cell-mediated immunity, it's reflected in the location, bloodstream versus cell, like right where the germ is located, but it's also reflected in the type of cell that's used, B cell versus T cell. But how come I didn't circle T cell? I circled killer T cell. Because when you do B versus T, this is it. It's not actually this, right? It's this. Why? Because these guys are both on the same level of the hierarchy, right? Helper T is not on the same level with these guys. He's above these guys. So if I draw how it actually works, right, this is just categorization, but if I draw how it actually works, the way it goes is the commander, a germ gets presented, right, to the commander. So these little dumb guys bring a piece of the germ, which is called an antigen, they cut it off the germ that they ate or killed or whatever, and then they bring it to the commander and they present it to him, just like you're presenting something to a king on his throne. And they say, Commander, look what we found. And that commander is the helper T cell. They say, Commander, look what we found. And then based on the type of germ, right, the type of antigen that's being presented, the commander is the one who makes the decision of what type of immunity to use. See? The commander makes that decision. So he will say, okay, the commander will choose which pathway to take. Humoral or CMI. See, humoral immunity or cell-mediated immunity. Right? If what you're presenting is a germ, a bad guy, then he will use humoral immunity, because that means, the germ was detected. And so if the germ was detected floating in the bloodstream, and so you need to kill it. Versus if you present a piece of yourself, then he will use cell-mediated immunity, because that means yourself turned bad. One of your own self cells turned rogue because it got affected. Now it needs to be killed. So you can see there's a difference, very distinct difference between B cells and killer T cells. It's two very different ways of handling the situation. Antibodies are basically like bullets, guns, right? The B cells shoot out these antibodies. So it's like guns, long range, versus CMI is not long range, it's close range. You're basically, the killer T cell is going and using its own hands to kill that cell that's been infected. Right? This is long range, like a gun, like shooting a gun, versus, or throwing ninja stars or something, versus this is close range, right? It's hands-on. You're using your own hands to kill your target. So it's just two very, very different things, and they should be that way in your mind. This is a perfect dichotomy. It's a duality, right? Yin and yang, because they're perfectly opposite, and you're always going to use either one or the other. So it's two pathways, and that's something that it can take a while to become clear when you're learning this. So that's why I'm pointing it out now. It's helpful to just realize this. It's really kind of this cut and dry with how you think about these things. B cell versus killer T. Antibodies versus hands-on. No antibody. You just kill the germ yourself. Humoral versus immunity versus cell-mediated immunity. Killing the germ while it's in the bloodstream versus killing your self cell because the germ has infected your self cell. It's too late to do this. Now you have to do this. First plan versus second plan. Plan A versus plan B. Ideal first try versus last resort. Long range versus close range. Why is there an R? Using a gun versus using your fist. Hands on. So that's like the cells. So you have the dumb guys that just eat germs. This all happens first. Then what happens is one of these dumb guys, when it eats a germ, it will digest the germ inside of its body using reactive oxygen species, which is basically just like stomach acid, right? Humans have stomach acid. Cells have reactive oxygen species, ROS. ROS is basically just like a bomb or fire. It just burns and destroys things. When you see ROS, that equals destroy, degrade, break down. It's just like fire, because reactive oxygen species, reactive means it reacts with things. It's very volatile. It destroys things. And oxidative, because reactive oxidative species. Oxidative literally means like fire, destroy. So, yeah. So these guys will eat the germ, right? It goes in, they eat it, then they literally destroy it and degrade it inside their stomachs with their stomach acid. It's not really stomach acid, it's ROS, right? But it's an analogy. And then after they degrade it and break it into pieces, one of those pieces, they'll move to the surface and they present that piece on their surface of their body. So it's like after they ate it and destroyed it, it's like they spit it back out and hold it in their hand and say, look what I have, right? Then they're going to take this piece of germ, which is called an antigen, that they have in their hand, and they're going to present it to the commander. So this is very important because this is the connection between the dumb immune system and the smart immune system. This is the bridge. It's called presentation, this process. It's like any one of these cells. Neutrophil could do it, macrophage could do it, dendritic cell could do it, if I'm not mistaken. All three, I'm pretty sure these three are the antigen presenting cells. I know these two are antigen presenting cells. I think this is the third one. There's three that can do this thing. But we don't talk as much about which is which later on. But I should look it up and find out. But it's called, the idea is what I want to get across here anyway, not the details. And the idea is called presentation. So this is like very important. I just want to give some shed light on how important it is, because I think it would have been nice to know when I was first learning it. Could have made it easier. This is so important because when you're looking at the big picture, you have your innate immune system versus your adaptive immune system. Your innate is the one that encounters the germs initially, right? So how does your adaptive immune system get activated? It gets activated by your innate. What is the bridge and the step that makes that happen? It's called presentation. So this is kind of like the core and the centerpiece of the whole entire immune system, presentation. The dumb guys present to the smart guys, right? The guys at the bottom of the hierarchy, little peasant cells or whatever, present to the commander. And then he decides which of these high-tech options he's going to use. He's going to use the humoral option, B cells, or the cell-mediating option, killer T cells, right? It depends on what the task is, right? What's needed. Does he need to kill just the germ, or does he need to kill a self cell, right? Is the germ still in the blood, or has it entered into the cell? That's what decides what path the commander will take. But the whole way this works is that these little minions and little peasants present, very important word, to the commander. They literally kneel before the throne of helper T cell. They kneel before his throne and say, look what we have brought you. We've brought you an antigen. And then he says, give me that. And he sniffs it. Oh, yeah, I can tell what kind of problem this is. I can tell what kind of antigen this is. I can tell what kind of germ this is. So now I'm going to decide which path we're going to go down. I'm going to decide which warrior to send out, the B cells or the killer T cells. So that's how it goes with the cells in immuno.